Hello, this is a heuristic lesson, and I attempt to answer, do my best possibly to shed some light on this question posed by Simon Kirby and Morton Christensen in their 2003 book, Language Evolution. And they asked, why are human languages the way they are and not some other way? And they said that this is the fundamental explanatory challenge for the study of language. Now, I see that they wrote for the study of language, and I take that to mean that any attempt to answer this question, or any successful answer even, wouldn't answer everything there is to know about language. However, it would give us the foundation from which we launch all further serious inquiries about language. And that's how I'm taking the question. If you set out to complete or put together a puzzle, it's a lot easier when you know what the puzzle is supposed to look like when you're finished. And that's how I'm approaching this question. Though I think that you limit yourself when you only look at language. And I believe by looking at language, mathematics, and music, we will discover something about the answer to this question. And I'll begin with language. I'm saying there's a common code with common keys, and in language and math and music, we have a code for all these things, we know. And the code in language is our alphabet. Of course, you'll see the schwa here because I've taken the schwa into my alphabet. So we have A, B, C, D, schwa, E, F, G. The reason being is because in a 4/4 count, we now have 8 letters represented in that 4/4 count. Whereas in the traditional alphabet song, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you have to ride the E and the G very hard to make it fit. And I believe that's a flaw. Also, I've taken the schwa into my language and I had to put it somewhere. The 5 spot is the most logical considering when the Azerbaijanis took the schwa into their language in 1996 after they kicked the Soviets out, that's about where they put it. For them, it's actually in the 6th spot because they have 2 different Ds, but that's another story. So here we have now our alphabet song, A, B, C, D, schwa, E, F, G. And I'm saying it's important because now we have a total of 8 with a hinge on the 5 spot. And that's a Fibonacci code. 8 being a Fibonacci, and the importance of the hinge on the 5 spot is also Fibonacci. And I'll go more into Fibonacci numbers when we get to mathematics. But to talk more about language and the importance of these numbers, we know that in prehistory, we had oral traditions. And through oral traditions, we recited a lot of material in poetic form. That's how we remembered long stories. And one of the most popular forms, rhyme scheme, is this iambic pentameter. Of course, the pent representing a 5, because they remembered things in a 5 count. Iambic pentameter. They counted on their hands when they recited these ballads or odes. And they would say, la, 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 la. And then they would count back up, dot, 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 dot. And this is where this symbol, the tally mark, comes from. It's the representation of the 4 fingers down and the thumb across. Now also, with that, if you could do that 10 times with your hands, it was called cant the 100. Now in our Indo-European roots, the word cant distantly related to the word count. And the word 100, this part, distantly related to the root of hand. So count on hand, count the 100. 10 tens on your fingers. I said I would talk more about the Fibonacci sequence, and here it goes. The Fibonacci sequence: 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, continuing on. For those who don't know the Fibonacci sequence, the two previous numbers add up to the next in the sequence. So we have 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 3, 3, 2, 5, 5, 3, 8, 8, 5, 13, 13 and 8, 21. And interesting that on our regular number system, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, with the 6, 7, and 8, representing all the Fibonacci numbers below 10, the 5 is always in the 5 spot. And I think that's important, that the 5 is always in the 5 spot, no matter whether it's regular counting or Fibonacci sequence. And to talk more about the Fibonacci numbers, of course, they were developed in the 12th century by Leonardo of Pisa, and we call him Fibonacci. And he got the idea for the Fibonacci sequence from language. He found in Indian mathematics, in connection with Sanskrit prosody, prosody, of course, being the study of these rhyme schemes and meter in poetry. I'll read from Stan Grist. He said, "The Fibonacci numbers are nature's numbering system. They appear everywhere in nature, from the leaf arrangement in plants to the pattern of the florets of a flower, the bracts of a pine cone, scales of a pineapple. The Fibonacci numbers are therefore applicable to the growth of every living thing, including a single cell, a grain of wheat, a hive of bees, and even all of mankind. Everything in nature grows according to this Fibonacci sequence. Nobody's able to explain it thoroughly. In this modern day, they still call the Fibonacci numbers magic numbers." And if I can say in a word why they're so important and how they work, it's balance. To be thorough about the Fibonacci numbers and a lesson about them, we're going to look at this 16th century etching from Albert Dürer. He was a German mathematician, artist, and philosopher. They called him the German Leonardo da Vinci. And he made this etching, a series of etchings in which they were like a puzzle, and they had all these different objects. You know, what's this odd shape here, this cherubim, this hourglass, the scales, the sword, this character here with wings who's kind of moping about. This is called Melancholia, Melancholia 1. And this etching has been a puzzle for these last 500 years. He didn't tell us what everything in it meant. And one of the most iconic objects in this etching is this square you see up here in the top right-hand corner. And it's a magic square. And this is Albert Dürer's magic square. And even now, 500 years later, they say this is the most magic of all magic squares. Because all the rows add up to 34. All the rows up and down add up to 34. All the quadrants add up to 34. And there are all sorts of interesting correlations. Take, for example, your corners. In the corners, you have 19 and 15, and then down below, 19 and 15. And then you have the numbers 21 at the top edge, and 21 at the outer top edge, and 13 and 13 in the middle, and down below it's opposite. You have the 13s on the outside, and the 21s correlate. And he understood how the Fibonacci numbers worked, being a mathematician. And this is why he was able to construct this puzzle and make it so. And if we can look now at Albert Dürer's number 5. You see it's upside down. The only number he wrote upside down, the 5. So this genius, with an understanding of exactly how the Fibonacci code worked and how it achieved balance in things, he put his 5 upside down because I believe he understood the importance of things in that 5 spot. He understood the importance of the 5 being the hinge on which that code is built. In modern Arabic script, the 5 is like a teardrop symbol like this, and it doubles as their symbol for infinity. And in our culture, of course, we use the 8 symbol laid on its side to represent the infinity. So there again, the 5 and the 8s with that grouping of 3 at the end are important. All the Fibonacci numbers represented that are below the number 10. If we know the musical scale, we said do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But we say do twice when it's only 7 notes in the scale, because the second do actually represents the octave higher of the next note. But we say it anyway, because it just wouldn't sound right if we said do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Something is incomplete. And again, the Fibonacci sequence makes it so. Something's missing when we leave that last out. I suggest that we should just call it a da. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, da. Because we already say la, ti, da. We don't say la, ti, do. People do say la, ti, da. So somehow in our culture, we've subconsciously corrected the mistake in part. Why do we say la, ti, da and not la, ti, do? Again, it's a mystery of the mind, but I believe that our brains, also structured on the Fibonacci sequence, since all things in nature are done that way, that we're continually striving towards perfection in the things that represent our nature. Interesting that the soul, the 5 spot, is this symbol here. We see it all the time, right? The G clef, they want to represent music, they pop this G clef in. And this one over here is the F clef, the bass clef and the treble clef in music. And this scale was one time and is still called in some places the sol fa scale. They started from the 5th note. So it goes from sol to fa. They don't call it the do ti scale. They call it the sol to fa scale. Also in music, you have the circle of fifths. And everything is in octaves. Again, 5s and 8s. Common codes, common keys, 5s and 8s. And that 3, the golden mean, the ratio in between the 5 and the 8 is important. For my conclusion about why human languages are the way they are and not some other way, I'm going to read to you from Thomas Reid, who is a Scottish philosopher in the 1700s. And Thomas Reid said that in biology, differentiation is fundamental and all evolutionary processes lead to it. A particular organ which serves various purposes is ultimately replaced by different organs, each one of which is especially adapted to one function, as when a number of identical appendages in the ancestral form become differentiated into eyes, antennae, legs, arms. Some grew wings, some grew flippers or fins. Something like the same process of differentiation occurs in the development of the elements of culture, and that is called cultural differentiation. So we can see here, especially now we have our schwa in the right place, that all these codes for these things of our culture, language, mathematics, and music, are all striving towards that same perfection, with the 5 spot being a logical hinge, and then the burst of 3 afterwards totaling 8 in all these codes. So I believe that we've always been striving towards perfection in these things, and the schwa just brings us that one step closer. And thank you for listening.